Bun găsit, doamnelor, domnilor, sunt Marius Constantinescu. Astăzi începe sezonul al doilea al emisiunii Ediție limitată, una dintre colecțiile premium de dialoguri cu personaje din A-listul vieții culturale internaționale pe care o are televiziunea română. În primul sezon am avut scriitori. Iată că acum, odată cu sezonul al doilea, diversificăm oferta, iar faptul că filmăm aici, la Ateneul Român, poate să vă dea de înțeles faptul că vom aloca un spațiu copios muzicii și muzicienilor. Ei bine, pe lângă aceștia, la ediție limitată vor fi autori de parfumuri, creatori de conținut digital, jurnaliști, dar și, evident, nume importante din ficțiunea internațională, după cum v-am obișnuit deja. Deschide noul sezon una dintre cele mai importante apariții pe scena muzicală internațională. S-a născut în Kansas, precum Dorothy din Vrăjitorul din Oz, și tot precum ea a ajuns departe, în cetatea de smarald a performanței vocale, acolo unde inclusiv 3 premii Grammy 2012, 2016 și 2020 i-au consfințit statutul de superstar al operei și al muzicii clasice. Mezzo-soprana Joyce di Donato. Wow! Joyce, it's such a privilege to have you as our guest for the UNESCO Festival and also for this interview for the National Romanian Television. And me personally, I'm thrilled to have you again as my interviewee and to have this time to talk to one of the most distinguished presences in the opera world today.
Oh, that's so kind. Thank you.
And of course, I wanted a different approach for this interview, so I thought a great deal about the first question. And I try to imagine someone who doesn't know you at all. And
probably most of the people watching.
And looking at you, what do they think you really are, seeing you like this?
Oh my, I have no idea. I can't know the answer to that question.
You are not the usual opera singer figure that we expect.
No, this is true.
Yes.
You know, when I first started out doing opera 20 plus years ago, I tried very hard to assimilate into what I thought an opera singer was supposed to be. And I was terrible at it. I really was not good at it. And my approach to what I do is really happens on stage, and it happens through the music and through the performance and the acting and all of that. I don't have a lot of energy to then create another persona off the stage. So I decided maybe a third of the way through what my career is now, this is too much work. And I want to be able to enjoy my professional life as myself and not try and put on another persona. So I think what they see is, you know, I'm a girl from Kansas, well, girl, but I still feel like a girl from Kansas who loves what I do, who takes it very seriously, who has a great time doing it, and who prefers, as much as I love the glamour and of that, of course, but I prefer that the emphasis be through the music and the moments on stage.
Yours is an example of a career built on very solid ground, with caution, taking things step by step, wisely, I would say. Are there missteps or mistakes in your parcours so far?
I don't think I've ever made a mistake.
Yes.
I mean, I've done things incorrectly, and I've had bad performances and all of this, but I'm really of the frame of mind that every experience is a teachable experience. Whether it's a success or not, everything can be transmuted into something extremely positive to learn from, to grow from. And I do think, I sit here now having just turned 50 earlier this year, and I still have a lot of pride in the way that I sing, and I feel like even though some things don't work the way they used to, and now other things are coming in abundance that I didn't have earlier, I still feel like I have full capacity to choose how I express any given phrase. And that gives me real artistic freedom that I treasure. So I think I have managed it well. I've enjoyed myself along the way. So I hope that continues for as long as I'd like.
Can success be intoxicating?
Yes.
Did it happen to you as well?
Did it happen to me? In small ways, I think, and then a little red flag would fly up, and I'd say, oh, okay.
Did you have moments when you thought, Joyce, take it slower, breathe and reboot? Yes,
that happens in a sort of cyclical cycle all the time, because I live in an exaggerated world. It's opera. It's life and death, and it's tragedy and exuberance. And I have to have access to all of those channels at every moment. And I don't think a singer or performer ever gets used to the loneliness of the hotel room after coming home from the euphoria of thousands of people and spotlights and diamonds and all of that being thrown at your feet. I mean, diamonds not thrown at my feet, but stage diamonds. And that's a wicked amount of time and emotion to travel. And so I've tried really hard to kind of just keep the middle road so that this doesn't feel so heavy, and that, it's lovely, but there are much more or many more important things in life than that. To be a citizen of the world in 2019, I think it's irresponsible to believe these moments right now. They're important. The audience needs them. The world of opera, the world at large, needs this collective sensation of coming together and feeling the immense emotions of humanity. We need that. But then we have to take that outside of the hall and get to work in our everyday lives. So I have a pretty decent perspective most of the time that I keep trying to reboot to and come back to. Yeah.
Have you ever thought of the fact that America produced and still produces some of the most versatile and well-prepared lyrical singers, no matter the repertoire, whether it's Italian or French or contemporary music or Baroque? How do you explain that?
Our training system is really quite extraordinary, and it's profound. So in the lucky schools in high school, which is sort of age 14 to 18, not all schools, sadly, but many have very strong training program. It's what I had in a choral background in high school. And we did the high school musicals. And so I already had been on stage and understood the idea of professionalism early on with that kind of training. And then you go into the conservatory system, and there's a very high level of professionalism that's expected, of proficiency, of going out there, and it's the American spirit of, go out there and
do your best.
Do your best and take up the challenge and go. And I think it does produce extraordinarily well-prepared singers. I'm not sure it always produces the best artists, because I do see a tendency, especially in that conservatory young artist, which we take very seriously, and rightfully so. There's so many good things happening with it. But you become a little bit robotic. And the young singers, especially today, I need a press person, I need a social media person, I need all this, and I need to get to the gym with my personal trainer. I'm like, and I'm sorry, and your diction lessons,
Yes.
And how are your language preparations going? And I hope...
Not only, also history and arts, and you inhabit all these characters, you have to know who they are.
We have to know where we are in the context of humanity, and not how many likes did I get. And I'm on Instagram as well too, but I do
one of your followers.
Thank you. But I do hope that all of that is to serve the purpose of the privilege and the responsibility of standing on a temple in a theater or concert hall and daring to bring these masterpieces to life. I take it very seriously, and I see a lot of hope. I was just traveling with the National Youth Orchestra that's sponsored by Carnegie Hall, and these kids are 16 to 19. And half of them already know they won't be musicians. They're going into international business and law and all these extraordinary, diverse fields, but they know the power of music as part of their training and their connective tissue. One girl was saying, I'd always thought I might go into international business, but I was keeping that separate from my music. And now I see how ambassadorial musicians can be and this. And so I'm very optimistic in many ways, and I'm proud to come through the American system, but it has its flaws as well. Yeah.
Joyce Di Donato a fost și invitată a Festivalului Internațional George Enescu în 2019 și 2021, astfel că și publicul din București a fost sub farmecul acestei cântărețe de un rafinament și o versatilitate absolut referențiale. Joyce a început cariera în Statele Unite, acolo unde, pas cu pas, și-a construit repertoriul axat pe câteva dintre marile titluri ale bel cantoului. În egală măsură, nu s-a temut nici de zorii liricii, fiind o mare ambasadoare a muzicii lui Georg Friedrich Händel, dar nici de creația contemporană. Poate cel mai recent exemplu fiind debutul în opera The Hours de Kevin Patz, în stagiunea curentă a operei Metropolitan din New York. De asemenea, Joyce Di Donato este o mare fană a recitalului, acolo unde poate da proba tuturor darurilor sale artistice.
Scoperzarti, io se pur in gelosia fresca come un fior, vien per tutti risollagre, ridi adesso e
It is always with great ease, not to mention great pleasure, that it seems for us, the audience, that you sing. And you've also talked about enjoying yourself while being on stage. Could you ever sing something that you don't like?
You're asking me such good questions. Could I ever sing something I don't like? I think with every role I've ever done, with maybe one exception, I've been able to find something that I love about it. You know, I mean, in the world of opera, for the most part, we're dealing with masterpieces.
Yes.
And you may have preferences. You may be more Strauss or more Rossini, and it's okay. But they're masterpieces, and so there are things to admire and to mine out of them. And now I'm in a position where I wouldn't have to sing something that I don't love. But more importantly than that, I think my guiding factor, so it's not about what my experience is out of it, but the question I ask when I take on projects is, do I have something to offer this project? I took on Donna Elvira, for example, in Don Giovanni. And it's a slightly unusual thing. It's usually more soprano voice. And I thought, but you know what? I can offer something to this role that has merit right now. And there are some other roles that I could list you 10 other singers I would much rather hear in that role. Carmen. Mm-hmm. There are other people I would rather hear in that. Yes. So I don't want to put my energy there when there's already so much good stuff out there. So that's more my litmus test for how I choose.
I see.
roles.
And you've mentioned an exception. What was that?
You know, I sang The Cunning Little Vixen in London. It was my debut at the Royal Opera, and I really loved it, but I didn't feel like I brought anything to the role vocally. I stopped and I said, I think that should belong to somebody else. But for most of the roles, not to elevate myself, but by the time a run finishes, I want to feel like I own that role. Not that I'm the only one that can sing it, but that I've fully fleshed it out with everything that I bring as an artist to the table. And I think I've been really fortunate and maybe smart in how the repertoire that I've chosen.
Your voice has been described as being 24 karat gold. Do you like to listen to yourself?
No, I do not. No, I mean, it's tricky. I asked Leontine Price this one time. Oh my God,
you've met Leontine Price?
I've met Leontine Price.
We should have started the interview with this.
Well, then what else would we talk about? And I remember something, and I said, you know, do you go back and do you listen to your recordings? She said, darling, all the time. Yes. I pop open champagne and I pour it and I listen to mine. I remember. And I thought, well, if I was Leontine Price, I would do that too, you know. It's work for me. It's work. And I'm just now getting the first edit of a recording of Agrippina that we finished in the early summer. And I have to listen to everything because I have to give my feedback and offer corrections, etc. And it's gotten easier, but it's still a little bit torturous because the only thing I hear is what I want to do differently and what I want to do better and what I want to have land on that vinyl or the CD the way I feel it and the way I heard it myself, the way I wanted it to be. And usually I fall very short of what my own expectations are. But I've turned the corner a little bit that I'm not quite so horrible to myself, and I can admire it to a certain level. But I don't really listen to myself. I don't think I've ever received an album and put it on, with the exception of song play, which is what I launched earlier this year. And I don't listen to it for myself, but I listen to it with the other musicians because they're extraordinary. It's more jazz and a lighter approach to, and just for the joy of singing. It's not about technical mastery like you have to have in Rossini or something. So that one I'll play for people and I'm like, listen to this one. But that's, I think, the only recording that I have done.
Well, from the Baroque to the bel canto, and then from the Romantics to the contemporary music, your repertoire ranges basically everywhere. And I was wondering, what is it about you, mezzos, that makes you dwell into all this history of music and make yourselves, appropriate yourselves, why not, parts of the repertoire basically unknown, because you do it, Merlin Horn did it, Cecilia Bartoli did it as well, so there's got to be something.
Aren't we lucky? I'd never want to come back as a soprano, no offense, but I just feel like it's endless, the amount of repertoire that is available to us. And not only in just different genres and time periods, but in the breadth of characters that we get to play. I mean, I spent a lot of time as Rosina and Cenerentola, who can be seen as sort of the perky little ingenue, but they're incredible feminists, and these incredibly strong ladies. You see who they're going to grow into. And so I started there, and the roles like componists or Octavian, Sestos, they're so rich and fully fleshed out. And in particular, the case of the pants roles that we mezzos get to do. I think about this a lot. Usually they're a young man or just a man on the verge of manhood. So their journey as a character is usually far greater than that of the typical leading ladies who have a problem to solve, but they're not always a different person at the end of the show. And in the case of these pants roles, and that Ariodante, Sesto and Clemenza, those are exhilarating characters to inhabit and to follow on their journey. I think the resurgence of the Baroque music in the last 40 years has been a gift. I'm so glad to be here in this moment that we get to go back and revisit that, because there are still things to be found. And still, I'm singing Agrippina right now, and that's had a resurgence of late, but it's certainly not commonly known. And it's thrilling to put that in front of an audience and feel like it's the majority of people in the audience are hearing it for the first time. And at the same time, they feel like they're watching the current evening news play out in front of them, because it's extraordinary as a political intrigue, this opera. And then to have pieces written for us as well as legitimate, leading ladies has been something quite extraordinary.
Tu
Talking about characters, every time I see you in concert or recital, even if it's a single aria, it seems that you inhabit that aria with the full character that sings the part. This theatrical approach, do you find it vital, mandatory in order to make the people believe in what you sing and what you transmit?
You ask the best questions. Yes. I've spoken about this before, and I really find it true. I think opera is the stupidest art form on the planet and should not exist unless it's 100% true.
It can be ridiculous sometimes.
Yes.
Yes.
You sit there and you say, why are they singing? What are they doing up there?
Yes.
If it is
Why
not...
are they dying for 20 minutes singing the highest notes ever?
And they're not looking at each other,
Yes.
and they're staring at a conductor, and they're, you know, doing all this stuff that sometimes we singers have to do, okay, but you could still do it in character. I start to resent it a little bit. And I think there are two things that exist on stage. This comes from a director, friend of mine, Leonard Volya. That which is true and that which is false. And something can be 99% true and it's still not true. And that is the kind of conviction I think every performer who dares to sing opera needs to have. It can look like a lot of different things. True can be big and it can be small. False can be big and can be small. Many singers feel they're being very true, but I think sometimes we have to monitor whether it's ourselves out there doing this or Rodolfo or Rosina. The glory of opera is that it's dealing with humans at their most extreme and their most life or death, but the most on the edge situation. And I've always interpreted to the point that the only recourse they have to express all of this is to sing. Speaking is not enough. And it just so happens we have these glorious melodies and vital rhythms, and we have an orchestra of 100 musicians below us helping us express that. But it has to be that deeply felt. That doesn't mean we have to be singing upside down and on a trapeze. That's not necessarily true. It can be entertaining, but true can be Margaret Price standing absolutely still and singing Dove sono or Porgi amor, and tears come. You might not look and say, oh, well, that's a modern performer because she's not this big and moving around. No. True is true. And I think the challenge and the excitement for today's opera singers is we have a capacity to be great actors as well and to be physically able and to move, but we can't lose that fundamental truth of emotion through the voice. Sometimes I think it tips a little bit more. It has to look physically believable. No, it just has to be believable, and that can look believable and true in any package.
Joyce Di Donato este astăzi exemplul modernității în operă, atât de departe de imaginea prăfuită a divei ifosate până în vârful unghiilor. Dimpotrivă, o artistă poliedrică, în perpetuă schimbare, mereu atentă la toate nuanțele lumii din jurul ei, conștientă atât de statura cât și de importanța vocii sale în spațiul public, Joyce Di Donato este unul dintre cele mai frumoase exemple de ambasador al universalității teatrului liric. You are outspoken, you are charming, and I would say, and it's not a compliment, I'm not flattering yourself, that you are the epitome of modernity in what opera is concerned. So I would ask you, is it no longer the time to paraphrase one of your most successful musical projects for the drama queen?
How do you mean?
I mean, you are so far from the cliché of the opera diva.
Yeah.
That can be a drama queen.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Well, I want the drama to happen on stage.
Okay.
And I think it's very important that, you know, I mean, I'm living this with Agrippina right now, is that when you need to be larger than life and you need to be a diva, as in from the divine and godlike, goddess-like,
Yes.
you need to know how to bring it.
Okay.
This is very important, but it belongs on the stage. And we need to be able to create that sensation of being larger than life and going out and having the confidence and the preparation level to deliver that to an audience who has paid a lot of money, who has a lot of experience usually in this, who has their favorites of the last 100 years that you're competing with in a way, and who have come and have a large expectation for you. It's a lot of pressure, and it's a lot of, the standard for opera singers is perfection. We are not allowed to sing a wrong note, really. And if we are, it's, we're raked across it. So we're dealing with a standard of perfection that exists in astrophysics and brain surgery and a few other things, but not many things. And so we have to have the confidence and the daring to go out and stand on a stage and become truly larger than life. So I always need to have access to that when I go out on stage. And I love it. I love that. And I'm proud, in a way, I'm proud of myself that I've been able to get to the point that I can do that as myself and turn it on and turn it off and go home and work in the garden and be authentic and go deeper and deeper with every year that I do this. And I feel like I'm at the point of doing that, and I love it.
You've expanded the limits of your artistic self because you're not only an opera singer, you're an ambassador for the arts, and you are a voice, a loud voice that has something very poignant and very important to say in the worlds of arts and also in the social world today. Being this kind of universal is the key for an opera singer in this time, in the 21st century, to really go there and be present in the people's mind?
I can't say what it should be for everybody. I think that's one of the beautiful things about artists is everybody is unique. And everybody will have a calling to do something different. And I would encourage those that feel strongly about things to use a voice that they can. I feel very strongly about my position as a citizen of the world. I grew up in a small Midwestern town in Kansas. It was very white, it was very suburban, it was very Protestant. I grew up Catholic, but it was very Christian. And that was my worldview. And I started traveling and I started going places and my sister traveled. She came to Romania 19 years ago and adopted a boy who's now my nephew, Vasile. And here I am for the first time in Romania, and our worlds are uniting. And I no longer can look at my life quite as simply as I used to. It's a complicated world. The beautiful thing about what I see on the opera stage is, in fact, it's not that complicated. Humans are humans. We all share the same desire for safety and love. We all search and yearn for ways to express ourselves. And right now we're seeing people express themselves in really violent ways because they don't have access to something like going, ah, and going, oh my gosh, I know how to make my voice heard now. And they pick up and they use a gun now, or they put on a suicide vest or whatever, because we've lost contact with our humanity. I feel very strongly about that. And I would feel hypocritical if I went on stage to try and explore these elements of humanity and present them to a paying public, and then just leave that on the stage and not address that in my everyday life. So I'm trying to find the way to marry those worlds while still keeping in mind that people come to a concert or to the opera to hear me sing.
Yes.
And I'm not a political activist. So that's a balance to try and find, that, you know, some singers are more outspoken than I and some say nothing. I think everybody has to follow the path that calls them. What I do believe in is those really authentic artists who use their voice in Mozart and Handel and Strauss, Berlioz, that just by doing that, they're already feeding humanity. And that gives me a lot of respect for everybody who gets up on stage and sings. Not everybody's called to address other issues, and I don't think they should be. Everybody has to find their own way.
You've also redefined the idea of style in the world of opera. Ever thought of you as a trailblazer?
Oh, no. No, but I tell you, I mean, the thing that for me is interesting is the trailblazing. It only happened when I started to just really be myself. I was failing miserably when I was trying to be a diva or dress the right way or anything like that. And when I just, you know, put myself out there, people are like, oh, you're very like hip. I'm like, I'm just me. Go on.
Tell me one thing that you would like to have your name on it.
Like on a building or like
Whatever. Or a perfume or an idea or whatever.
Well, a world peace treaty would be lovely. Great. I would love that. You know, a great school for the arts that is blueprinted around the globe. Yeah, that would be kind of cool.
Thank you so much. It's
Thank
been such
you.
a pleasure.
Mulțumesc.
Cu plăcere.
Te ricordi stunido quei anni che ti giri mi sono pensier, che tormenta, che robe che fare, ma non ero davvero pensier, che fortuna quante più se andò, che peccato, per fortuna quante più se andò. Ne vedevo che per i tuoi occhi non avevo tormento di me, che se piazza che costi patroci, ma adesso se tuo che te vien, non mi stanno che troppi figa, che figa, non mi stanno che troppi figa. Si se bega ma forse di zona, ma che giorno mezz'anni di più, ma nient'uomo pensa che non mi ingrassa ogni giorno di più. Sono l'uomo che so che fa, che fa. Sono l'uomo che so che fa.
Doamnelor și domnilor, ediția limitată de astăzi se închide aici. Sunt Marius Constantinescu și dacă în primul sezon v-am îndemnat la fiecare final de emisiune să citiți nelimitat, la sezonul acesta îndemnul meu la final va fi întotdeauna același: trăiți nelimitat!